be completely clear with you this morning. If it feels like everything just escalated overnight, well, because it did. We are no longer watching tensions build. We are watching decisions being made in real time that are actually affecting global stability, financial markets, and everyday life right now. You've got blockades being announced, airstrikes expanding into new regions, diplomatic talks happening at the same exact time as threats, and markets reacting like everything is just fine, which, let's be honest, it's a little confusing. So today, we're not just going to read the headlines, we're going to break down for you and what it actually means. And why should you care? Well, you live in it. Let's get into it. Segment 1, U.S. blockades of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Let's start with the biggest move on the board right now. The United States has announced plans to blockade Iranian maritime activity, specifically targeting the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if that sounds technical, let me simplify it. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important oil routes in the world. Roughly 20% of global oil supply moves through that one channel alone. So when you hear blockade, well, what does that really mean? Potential disruption of global energy flow. Now, why does that matter to you? Because that directly connects to gas prices, inflation, cost of goods, overall economic pressure. And here is where it gets even more serious. Iran has already responded with threats of retaliation and warnings about controlling access of that very same route. So now you've got a situation where one side is trying to control access, the other side is threatening consequences. That's not de-escalation, that is strategic pressure. Segment 2, Israel's strike in Lebanon and war expansion. Now let's move to what's happening on the ground. Israel has carried out a major airstrike and many more in Lebanon with reports of over 180 casualties. And this is where we pause for a second because behind every number are real people, families, communities, lives disrupted in an instant. Now, strategically, these strikes are targeting Hezbollah, but the bigger story here is not just the strike itself, it's what it represents. The war is expanding geographically, and here's the key detail most people are simply missing. The ceasefire discussions that are happening right now do not apply to Lebanon. So while one part of the conversation is talking about slowing things down, another part of the reality is speeding things up. That's how conflicts spread. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Segment 3, diplomatic talks with distrust. So here is where it gets interesting. At the same time, all of this is happening, the United States and Iran have begun direct diplomatic talks. Now, on paper, that sounds like progress. We celebrated it last week. And to be fair, anytime two sides are talking instead of escalating, that's a positive. But here's the reality. These talks are happening with deep mistrust on both sides. So what you're really looking at is simply this: negotiation under pressure, diplomacy under tension. And historically, situations like this can go either way. They can lead to breakthroughs or they can break down very quickly. So right now, this is not resolution. This is uncertain positioning. Segment 4, markets versus reality and the disconnect. Now, here's where things get interesting again, because while all of this is happening, the markets are going up. The Dow is hitting multi-week highs. Stocks are trending upwards. Oil prices have even dipped slightly in the short term. And if you're watching this thinking, how does this make any sense? You're not alone, because what markets are reacting to is not reality. They're reacting to expectations. The expectation that conflict might slow down, the expectation that talks might work, the expectation that things might stabilize, but expectations and reality are not always the same thing. So while Wall Street is optimistic, Main Street is still asking, What does this mean for my bills? What does this mean for my future? And that's a fair question. Segment 5, U.S. threat statements and escalation language. Let's talk about the tone that is coming out of leadership. There have been strong statements suggesting that if access to the Strait of Hormuz is restricted, U.S. response could include targeting critical infrastructure. Now, that kind of language is not casual. That signals escalation readiness, strategic warning, high stakes positioning. And this is where people start to feel it, not just politically, emotionally. Because when rhetoric intensifies, uncertainty immediately follows. Segment 6. What does this actually mean? Real talk. Let's bring it all together, shall we? Because this is where clarity matters more. Right now, you have a potential blockade of a global oil route, active airstrikes expanding into new regions, diplomatic talks happening under pressure, markets reacting to hope, not certainty, and escalating language from leadership. That is not one story. That is a system under pressure. And here's what that means for everyday people. Economic uncertainty, rising cost concerns, global instability, emotional fatigue. Because let's be real, it's a lot. Now listen, in closing, the goal here is not to exaggerate or add fear. The goal is simply awareness. Because when you understand what is happening, you don't just react emotionally. You respond intelligently. And in times like this, that matters more than ever. And if you want more real breakdowns like I'm giving you right now, not noise, not confusion, but actual clarity, do yourself and me a favor, visit themestudios.net. It's right there on your screen. Because information is everywhere, but real understanding is rare. I'm Ali Midawi, and this is What's New with ME. I'll see you in the next episode.
Still marketing your business like it's the Yellow Pages era? Welcome to ME Studios, where local solopreneurs and small business owners catch up with the digital world and take over it. We help you go from invisible to undeniable. Featured on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Plus, gain press exposure in over 100 to 300 major media outlets like Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC, and the CW. Right here in Eatontown, New Jersey, just steps away from the soon-to-be Netflix studios, our multi-unit facility is built for creators, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Stop marketing like it's 1995. Start building your digital authority today with a team that gets it.